you excited for another math tinik lesson? Of course you are! Because today, you are expected to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers. Don't worry, I am Teacher Gloria and I will guide you all throughout this lesson. Fractions are part of our lives. We encounter them almost every day, from helping our parents prepare meals up to planning how to budget our time. Knowing how to add and subtract fractions will help you deal with real-life situations wherein fractions are involved. In adding or subtracting dissimilar fractions, it is important that we master the skill in finding the least common denominator or the least common multiple of the denominators. There are 3 methods that you can use in getting the least common multiple. Do you still remember these methods? Come, let's review them.
If we are to find the least common multiple of 8 and 12, here is how to do it using the 3 methods. First, the listing method. With this method, all we have to do is to list down the multiples of 8 and 12. Let's start with 8. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. On the other hand, the multiples of 12 are 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. After listing down the multiples of 8 and 12, it's now time to find the least common multiple. What do you think is the least common multiple of 8 and 12? Yes, it is 24. Second is the prime factorization method. In this method, we just need to list down the factors of 8 and 12. What are the prime factors of 8? Correct! It is 2 times 2 times 2. How about 12? You got it right again. It is 2 times 2 times 3. To find the LCM of 8 and 12, first thing to do is to compare the prime factors of 8 and 12. Do they have common factors? Yes, these ones. If they have common factors like this, we will count them as 1. Therefore, what's left are 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is now equivalent to 24. Our least common multiple using prime factorization of 8 and 12 is 24. The third method is the continuous division. First thing to do is to list down the first 5 prime numbers. These are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. These prime numbers can be used as divisor in finding the least common multiple of 8 and 12. This is how to do it. Are 8 and 12 divisible by 2? Yes! So we divide them by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Then ask again. Are 4 and 6 divisible by 2? Yes! So we divide them by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Will you stop dividing now? Yes, because 2 and 3 does not have a common factor. Therefore, the least common multiple of 8 and 12 using the continuous division is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is now equivalent to 24.
Were you able to remember the methods used in finding the least common multiple? That's great! Nonetheless, if you think you need to review it further, there are more examples given on each of the methods mentioned for your reference. Or if not, you are always free to contact your teachers for further assistance. Are you now ready for our math technique lesson? Then let's start!
Adding similar fractions. In adding similar fractions, all you have to do is to copy the denominator and add the numerator. In this example, we copy the denominator 9. Then we add 4 and 2, which is now equivalent to 6. Our answer then is 6/9. Reduce the answer to its lowest term if possible. Can we reduce 6/9? Yes, because 6 and 9 are divisible by 3. 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2, and 9 divided by 3 is equal to 3. Our final answer now is 2/3. Subtracting similar fractions. In this, the process is the same with addition. All you have to do is to subtract the numerator, then copy your denominator. In this case, 8 minus 5 is 3. Then copy the denominator 9. Then reduce your answer to lowest term if necessary. In this case, can we reduce 3/9? Yes, because 3 and 9 are divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Therefore, our final answer is 1/3. Adding dissimilar fractions. Step 1 is to find the least common denominator. That is by finding the least common multiple of 6 and 4. What is the least common multiple of 6 and 4? Yes, it is 12. Therefore, our least common denominator is 12. Step 2 is to change the fractions to similar fractions using the least common denominator 12. We will start first with 3/6. Put the least common denominator 12 as your denominator, then divide it by 6 and multiply the quotient to 3. The answer now is 6. Therefore, the equivalent fraction of 3/6 is 6/12. Let's do this again for 1/4. Put the least common denominator 12 as your denominator. Then divide it by 4 and multiply it by 1. The answer now is 3. Therefore, the equivalent fraction of 1/4 is 3/12. Step 3. Since they are now similar fractions, you can now add them. In this case, 6 plus 3 is equal to 9. Then just copy your denominator. reminding you again that we always have to reduce our answers to its lowest term if possible. Can we reduce 9/12? Yes, we can reduce it to 3/4. This is now our final answer. Let us also try to subtract dissimilar fractions. Step 1 is to find the least common denominator by finding the least common multiple of 6 and 9. What is the least common multiple of 6 and 9? Yes, it is 18. Therefore, our least common denominator is 18. Step 2 is to change the fractions to similar fractions using the least common denominator. Let's start with 4/6. Put the least common denominator 18 as your denominator. Then, divide it by 6 and multiply it by 4. The answer now is 12. Therefore, the equivalent fraction of 4/6 is 12/18. Do the same in finding the equivalent fraction of 3/9. Again, put your least common denominator as your denominator. Then, divide it by 9 and multiply it by 3. The answer now is 6. The equivalent fraction of 3/9 now is 6/18. Step 3. Now that they are already similar fractions, we can now subtract the numerator, then copy the denominator. 12 minus 6 is equal to 6. Then copy the denominator. Again, we always have to reduce our answers to its lowest term if possible. Can we reduce 6/18? Yes, we can reduce it to 1/3. This is now our final answer. Adding mixed numbers. Step 1. Find the least common denominator. Our least common denominator is 18. We can find the least common denominator by finding the least common multiple of our denominators 9 and 6. Step 2 is to change the fractions to similar fractions. We can do this by finding the equivalent fractions of 7 and 4/9 and 3 and 5/6. Let's start first with 7 and 4/9. Remember, our least common denominator is 18. So all we have to do is to copy 18 as our denominator, same as through with a whole number. After which, we divide 18 by 9. Then, multiply it by 4. Our numerator now is 8. So the equivalent fraction of 7 and 4/9 is 7 and 8/18. Next is to find also the equivalent fraction of 3 and 5/6. First again is to copy the whole number and then the denominator 18. Then we divide 18 by 6. Then multiply it by 5. Our answer now is 15. So, the equivalent fraction of 3 and 5/6 is 3 and 15/18. Step 3. Now that they have the same denominator, we can already add the whole numbers, copy the denominator, then add the numerator. In this case, 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. Then, copy the denominator, 18. Add the numerator now. 8 plus 15 is equal to 23. But again, as we can see, 23 is more than 18. Therefore, we have to change this one into a mixed number before reducing our answer to its lowest term. Step 4. If the numerator is bigger than the denominator, change it to mixed number. This is how to do it. We divide 23 divided by 18, and our answer now is 1 with a remainder of 5. Get now the quotient 1 as our whole number. Get the remainder 5 as our numerator and our divisor as our denominator. The equivalent mixed number of 23 and 18th now is 1 and 5/18. Step 5. Add the equivalent mixed number of 23/18 to the whole number 10. What is again the equivalent mixed number of 23/18? Yes, it is 1 and 5/18. What's the next step? You got it right again. It is to add the whole numbers. So 1 plus 10, you will get 11. Our final answer then is 11 and 5/18. Let us also try subtracting mixed numbers. In this case, they do not have the same denominators again. So what should we do? Right, we have to find first the least common denominator. We can find the least common denominator again by finding the least common multiple of 8 and 4. What's the least common multiple of 8 and 4? Right, it is 8. Therefore, our least common denominator is 8. Step 2 is to change the fractions to similar fractions. We can do this by finding the equivalent fractions of 5 and 4/8 and 3 and 3/4. The equivalent fraction of 5 and 4/8 is 5 and 4/8. And the equivalent fraction of 3 and 3/4 now is 3 and 6/8. Now that the denominators are the same, we can now subtract. However, in this case, we cannot subtract 6 from 4. So, there is a need for us to regroup 1 from our whole number 5. Here are the steps on how to regroup 5 and 4/8. First is to regroup 1 from 5 and make it as a fraction using the denominator. 1 will now become 8/8, and 4 will become our new whole number. You can now add them. So our answer is 4 and 12/8. The equivalent fraction of 5 and 4/8 is 4 and 12/8. After finding the equivalent fraction of 5 and 4/8, which is 4 and 12/8, we can now subtract. That is because 12 is now bigger than 6. How are we going to subtract again? we should start with the whole numbers. 4 minus 3 is 1. Then copy our denominator 8. Then subtract 12 minus 6 and we can get 6. Our answer is 1 and 6/8. Remember, we always have to reduce our answer to its lowest term if possible. Can we reduce 1 and 6/8? Yes, we can reduce it to 1 and 3/4. Our final answer now is 1 and 3/4. Lastly, let's try to subtract mixed numbers from a whole number. Example, 88 minus 3 and 7/12. First, we are going to regroup 1 from 88 by making a fraction out of the denominator of our subtrahend. So, if we regroup 88, we will get 87 and 12/12. Step 2, you can now subtract. Start it with your whole numbers. 87 minus 3 is 84. Then, copy the denominator since they are the same. After which, you can now subtract the numerator 12 minus 7. Our answer there is 5. Can we reduce 84 and 5/12? No. So our final answer is 84 and 5/12.
Always remember to add or subtract similar fractions. First, add or subtract the numerators. Second, write the sum or difference over the common denominator. Third, simplify or write the answers in lowest terms if possible. On the other hand, to add or subtract the similar fractions, always remember to first, determine the least common denominator. Second, get the equivalent fractions using the LCD. Third, add or subtract the numerators. And fourth, simplify or write the answers in lowest terms if possible. And lastly, for mixed numbers, we always have to remember to add or subtract first the whole number, then the fractions. Second, simplify or write the answers in lowest terms if possible. I hope you listened well in our discussion because it's now your turn to apply what you just learned. Turn your learning activity sheet to page 5 and you'll find practice exercises on adding and subtracting fractions. Read the instructions carefully and try your best to answer the items. After which, you can now proceed to the next activity. Remember, you can always tap your parents or your teachers if you are having trouble answering the items. It is so much fun learning with you. Again, I am Teacher Gloria and I hope this video helped you a lot on learning how to add and subtract fractions. This is Definitely TV reminding you to always be a math tinik to be a math tibay in life. Goodbye!